the only show focused on stars' improvement strategies and the leaders who implement them. This is the Rising Stars with Rex Wallace Show, brought to you by Hyperlift.
Hey, welcome back to Rising Stars. We sit here on October 3rd, 2023, getting ready for the stars release for the 2024 star ratings, and we have kind of another special episode we're going to do a quick edit on, quick release, so this might not look like some of our other episodes, but we want to get it out quick. We think stars are going to be released on the 11th in just about 8 days, so we have an important guest and just a really interesting topic. So, you know, the big news of the 2024 star ratings all around the Tukey outlier deletion methodology, which we've talked about for a couple of years now in great detail on this show and in every conference we've been to and everywhere else. And there are lots of perspectives on this methodology that is completely changing the way star ratings are calculated and changing this year, materially the cut points. So we have a new voice to the show, but not a new voice to the industry. We have Dave Meyer on today. Dave, I met a long time ago when I first got into stars. I think it's been probably 10 years ago. And Dave has been a great friend since then, and definitely an influential voice in our industry. Somebody who is not afraid to have a different perspective and sometimes the right perspective, right? Maybe the only one sometimes who maybe has that. And I love hearing Dave speak. I think we all do. Dave is one of those guys who not only is thought provoking, but just a gracious guy too. So happy to have him on, excited to have him on, one of the bright stars definitely in our industry. So first, Mick, hey, welcome back, Mick. Really excited about this episode. You're kind of Mr. I call you Mick Tukey, right? So I feel like Tukey is kind of your baby. So this is going to be an interesting episode, and I look forward to getting in. But thanks for coming back.
I look forward to it as well. Thank you.
And Dave, good to have you. For our people who might not, know who you are, which I can't imagine there are many of those, but can you give a quick intro of yourself and what you're doing today?
Yeah. Thanks, Rex. And first of all, thank you, Nick and Rex, for inviting me. It's been something I've been wanting to do with you for a while, so this is fun. So my name is Dave Meyer. I am currently the SVP for Risk Management and Quality at Beacon Healthcare Systems. We're a software as a service company, largely focused on clinical applications like utilization management, appeals and grievances, enrollment, things like that. Obviously, I'm there now, and so we're also building some other stuff that we haven't released just yet, but we're excited about those things as well. So I'd be happy.
What a tease
to spill the beans at some point for you guys in the future. But thank you for having me, guys. It's looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, no, great, really, really great to have you, and way overdue, but glad we got you on. Okay, so let's talk Tukey, right? So, and we've talked about this for, well, like I said, gosh, Mick, I think every episode we touch on it, right? Yeah. But Tukey came up, and we could even debate this maybe, but the problem Tukey was brought in to solve was plans complaining about the cut points moving too much variability, unable to project accurately what our star rating is going to be and what our future revenue is going to be as we kind of think through future bid cycles, etc. So CMS brought in guardrails, and then they brought in Tukey as a way to remove outliers in the way it's a statistical methodology that is typically described as removing the noise from the system, right? These outliers that do not reflect. I see Dave making faces already. But removing outliers that at least from a statistical methodology perspective, right, might not really reflect true industry performance. They're kind of they are outliers, so they don't really determine or don't really reflect true industry performance. So it's removing the noise. Mick, anything to add to that? I mean,
no, I think you captured it Well, and I'm very interested to jump into this because I think that what we've seen is it does exactly that. But I know Dave's got some really interesting perspectives, and I'm looking forward to a little back and forth on that.
Yeah. So Dave, what's your take on Tukey?
Yeah. So Mick, brace yourself, man. Maybe pour the cocktail right now. So Tukey is a disaster, and let's jump in and talk about all the reasons why. Rex, appreciate the history lesson on where it came from, which is, I mean, like, honestly, the fact when people look at their scores and just drink that in, folks. For those of you that are on the health plan side, we did this to us. I mean, like, unbelievable. And it wasn't just, hey, outliers, and it wasn't health plans, wanting more stable central tendency. What health plans wanted is they wanted Kaiser out. I mean, so let's just call this what this was. And they were looking at the top end, and nobody was looking at what was going to happen at the bottom end, which is shocking when you think about it. But there it is. And so yeah, exactly right. Health plans lobbied the folks at CMS to do something, and this is what CMS did. And knowing that history, I mean, it's shockingly unfair to castigate CMS with Tukey. I mean, we did this to us. So I mean, you got to sort of start with the face in the mirror on this. But I mean, let's talk briefly about Tukey. So the purpose of Tukey is not to get rid of data. So let's just start with the basic purpose of Tukey. We're using it wrong. Okay? It's a very simple statistical strategy that's meant to identify outliers. So if you imagine, I was thinking about a way to describe this to people that are not math folks. If you imagine a rubber band, right? And you take a pen and you make a bunch of dots close to each other, and then you make one or two dots kind of far, right? And you stretch the rubber band, right? This is pre-Tukey, right? And then what Tukey is saying, oh, well, these two dots that were really far, I'm no longer going to grab for them. I'm going to move way over. And then what happens, what happens as the rubber band contracts a little bit, right? All those points that were tight together, but were slightly stretched when you really yanked on the rubber band, they're now moving closer and closer to each other, right? This is literally what happens with the cut points, right? So when people say, well, shit, I thought I was an easy 4, and now I'm not even a 3.5. I'm I'm looking at a 3. I'm a round down. Like, what happened? And that's what happened, right? And so why Tukey? Is Tukey a good statistical strategy or bad one? It's a great one. It's a great one. It's designed to identify things that are so far out from the measure of central tendency that they should be investigated. No, not deleted, investigated. You would assume, like, if you were doing a clinical trial, and I got the chance to do some clinical trials while I was in grad school, if you have some outliers that are so far away from the rest of the study participants, something happened. Probably measure error, right? And so the point of identifying them and then looking into them is not, again, to remove them. It's to assess what happened, right? Did the sphygmometer we were using to take blood pressures, did it fail? Was it human error? Were those values always taken from a specific individual and they were poorly trained or what have you, right? So the idea here is, again, it's not to whack values out. It's to investigate what happened and to make sure that it's not measurement error. So the only reason that you would remove something using Tukey is measurement error, not it's too low. And when you listen to people in our industry talk about Tukey, they say, "Oh, well, yeah, we're removing them because they're too low. We want tighter measures of central tendency." This is not what Tukey designed. The statistical process named for him is not what he designed it for. he designed it as an investigation tool. So right out the gate, we're using it wrong. And then when you start to ask, well, what are the assumptions that Tukey has to have? I'm not even sure we meet all the assumptions. As a matter of fact, I would say at a minimum, we barely meet them. More likely, we don't meet some of them. And I'm not going to go that geeky and start talking about the statistical assumptions for this call, but I don't think it's there. So I don't think we meet the assumptions. We're using it wrong. And then when you consider the impact on the industry, it's completely undesirable. How is it a good thing to have kind of like the old New York, deli owner leaning over your order and putting his thumb on the scale and pushing down? How is this a good thing when we're trying to have valid measures and compare health plans with each other? And this is literally what we're doing when we start to remove data. These are not bad data. Nobody's arguing that these health plans should never have reported. They're just low.
But some of the ones.
So in that, go ahead.
Like if you go back, so when this all came out, so we ran Tukey on STARS 2023 to kind of see what that impact was going to be, because it's one thing to understand what Tukey is and kind of in theory what it's going to do. It's something very different to apply it to cut points and see what it's going to do to an actual plan. But the one that jumps out at me, Rex and I used this example 100 times over the past couple of years. Breast cancer screening. If I remember correctly, there was one contract that was deleted based on Tukey. And because everybody was in that, let's say 55 to 75-ish range for the most part. But you had one contract that scored a 16. And to your point, maybe it should be investigated. But
yeah,
in reality, though, if the goal is to stabilize cut points and make them more predictable, make them more reliable, that one measure, that one contract pulled cut points down like over 10 points at the 2 and 3 star levels. And so if you're really going after legitimate, predictable cut points, it does help, because that skewed cut points in a major way. And so if you really are looking at, I wish I'd gone to look at this, what that contract scored like the next year. Actually, we wouldn't have that yet, but it would be interesting to look at, because if you're really trying to look at how the industry is moving, then it was right to pull that out. And the reality is, this stuff's been out there. I mean, that's what we keep saying. It's going to be a shock to the system in STARS 2024. We're already seeing that with the reward factor thresholds that dropped 15, 20 basis points. That means we saw a big drop across the board. But going forward, you should have more predictability and stability, because it takes much more movement across many, many contracts to move the industry.
Yeah, so a couple things, Mick. First,
yep.
Tukey doesn't remove anything. Tukey is a strategy for identifying outliers. Humans removed the data. So again, I refuse to castigate a really great statistician coming up with a method for identifying outliers and make this his fault. We are misusing it. So that's the first thing. Tukey does not automatically remove any data. Tukey suggests that if the data is an outlier, that it should be investigated. And again, only considered for removal if the data is spurious. Now, you bring up a health plan that might be an example of spurious data. I don't know. They also could be really terrible. But I don't think that I don't think you or I or anybody else knows, right? We just know it's a really low score. And not liking the outcome is not enough of a reason to do something that's inappropriate. I mean, it's just not. I mean, it's kind of like the way Tukey's used now is it's kind of like some drug that also is a source of vitamin C. And we're not sure about the FDA on the drug for cancer, but it's a great source of vitamin C, so take it anyway. I mean, it's looking for another reason why we like Tukey. It doesn't change the fact that we are misusing it, number one. It was never designed to do what we're using it for. And number two, we're not doing the thing it was designed for. Right? Nobody is doing the due diligence at all
about the
on
investigation.
No.
About do we know that for sure?
You know of anybody that's doing investigations, Mick?
Nobody's reached out to me about it. But
all right,
my
it's
point
not
is,
happening.
We're not.
Come on, I'm not drinking that tea with you. It's not happening. Nobody is doing it. So let's just call this what it is, right? It's not being used correctly.
And to that point, Dave, real quick, do we? And I don't. Do they? I guess we don't know yet. But will we know publicly who the outliers are? I know we can back into it because we've done those calculations, but will there be some report like right now in the fact sheet, right? When stars are released, there's here's the low performing icon plans, here are the high performing icon plans, the 5 stars and above. Will there be, hey, here are the outliers that were removed from the cut point calculations this year? I'm guessing no, but
I'm guessing no, because there are a lot of times that things are removed that we don't hear about. Right. But I'm sure there will be a lot of companies like us probably who will publish, our view of what, right. Some of that would be. But I'm gonna go back to something, Dave. You said, we're not using it correctly. So if we go back to, and correct me if you disagree here, but if the ultimate goal was to stabilize cut points, to provide
that was
kind of
never
a range.
The goal.
That's
the vitamin C argument. That was never the goal. The goal was what Rex said before. The goal was, it's really hard competing against Kaiser. So let's figure out a statistical way to get rid of the A student with the pointy A, who's a pain in the butt and we can't compete with him. So let's figure out a way to get rid of that student, and we're just going to compete. All the B's, low A's, B's, and C's are going to compete against each other, right? But in doing this, the fact is there are quote unquote. I don't even like the term outliers. There are scores that are less consistent with other health plan scores on both sides, right?
Yep. Right.
And there's more, to Rex's point, they're more on the low side. So the impact of this is not, the relief that people were hoping for with the pointy A students. That what happens is
this
that
is
the
the first
people
time
that
I've
were
heard
getting threes
that
are getting
pointy A
whacked.
student.
Me too, actually, yeah.
I've never heard the concept of the goal was to remove the pointy A students, like what CMS published, and we ended up regurgitating 100 times.
CMS never said that, at least.
2 things, right? They were not removing the pointy A students.
It must not be true if CMS didn't publish it, Mick.
All right, so we agree there, right, Dave? So what I always heard was kind of a twofold thing, right? We want to stabilize cut point movement year over year. And by the way, we also expect this to have a positive impact on the amount that we have to pay in QBP. So, there is a money saving aspect to this, maybe under the guise of, but look, we're doing you a favor because we're going to stabilize cut points at the same time. But this first year is going to be really, really shocking to the system. And frankly, if you were one of those ones that got caught up in the shocking change, as Rex has mentioned many times, it can be a multi-year climb back to get back to a 2 or a 3 star in some of these measures, depending on where you end up falling.
Do you remember the QBP savings? I actually don't remember like the 10-year number for Tukey.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
It's like $1 billion or something like that.
Okay.
And I'm going to say the wrong thing, but we have it on a slide.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Oh, do you think it's a higher number?
I think it's higher than $1 billion.
I think because it was over the next 10 years.
You're saying over 10 years. Okay. I don't know.
In the first year, the simulation was that 16% of plans would drop half a star. And assuming some of those are obviously dropping from 4 to 3.5, that's QBP.
It's a lot of money. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
And Dave, your point is not that CMS shouldn't be doing this because it's causing plans to lose QBP necessarily, or it's more just the concept of how they're that Tukey shouldn't be applied in the first place. Or no?
Yeah, again, I have researched this and I do not blame CMS. I blame us. So that's the first thing I want to make extremely clear. feel bad for the folks in Baltimore. We're to blame. So that's first. And then in terms of what's exacerbating the problem, I think part of it is kind of what we were just talking about. It's like looking for good news connected to a bad behavior, right? We're executing this statistical methodology wrong, and then we're trying to create a storyline as an industry that somehow makes it all, makes it all something you can gulp down. And did CMS even need to save that money? I've never heard them say we need to save a bunch of money.
Well, if you look at
what
they've done with the final rule changes, look at everything they've done with final rule changes, the potential change to QI hold harmless, the reward factor replacement with HEI, all of this stuff. They came out and said it's going to save $25 billion over the next 10 years. QI alone is going to be $19 billion. So they definitely have a goal of reducing spend on QBP.
The Medicare Trust Fund, right?
I hear you on that, but I've never heard anybody from CMS say, you know what, we have to save $30 billion over the next 10 years, or we don't hit our goals to save the trust fund. I've never heard anybody say that. And so okay, maybe they want to save some money. I don't know that they're not going to just spend it on something else, though. Do you know that's actually going to be savings? So I think we're making some assumptions that
I hope they fix some potholes in Houston.
I'm not sure we can. I'm not sure we can make. So that's the first thing. And then in kind of the exacerbator. You're talking about money. The exacerbator here is the cliffs, right? The stepwise cliffs, and let's say that there is a number that they got to get to. Nick, I have no way of knowing, whether that's a a good or bad point. I'm just saying I've never heard.
Yeah.
But let's say it's true, right? They have an internal number they got to get to, right?
Yeah.
And that would be something we would understand because the United States is spending too much right now.
Right.
It's some nosebleed 30 trillion number or something like that. So they need to get to some savings. Well, then why not uncouple revenue with quality in the way it's currently configured with cliffs and just scale it in? Just a gradual scale, and they can set the amount of money they want to pay, and it just sort of scales in down to 4-star if we want to use the exact same cut point now, and it's just the amount of money they got, and in it goes proportionally. I think that there are lots of ways to do this where we uncouple ourselves from the source of the problem without having to do yoga to make the current approach work, and that's what we're doing.
Well, so I got a question then. Rex and I went back and forth with Melissa about this, Melissa Smith, with around guardrails and Tukey and kind of the desires of plans, right? We had different opinions on that subject as well, but if the goal, I do think that in general, let's say taking away the fact that we have pre-published cut points, so we know what we got to go for 4 stars. But in general, people want more information that they can count on. Something that can improve analytics, improve kind of how we're playing this stars game. And so I do think that Tukey is as uncomfortable as it was for 24 is good at doing that. And frankly, this information's been out there for a long time. And so, I frankly would have liked to see some of these conversations coming out sooner because a lot, at least the clients that we work with weren't surprised by any of this. And so it's just, how do you deal with what is coming? Kind of like all this final rule stuff, because final rule is going to upset the stars math in a fundamental foundational way for a ton of plans, especially some high performing plans. And A, you got to know that stuff. And B, you need to be doing stuff right now to start getting ahead of it. And so is some of this
the irony,
over spilled milk,
yes.
or is this Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Mick, I mean, there's a lot of yeses, right? The stuff you were just saying. But I mean, look, what's going to happen? So supposedly, all of these things that are happening are because CMS wants to encourage us to spend more money on stars. You've just gone through a list of things. And without going into each one, let's just take the list, okay?
Okay.
Do health plans spend more on stars or less?
You got to think that number's going
With
up.
all that uncertainty, what do?
Yeah, spend more.
More? No, they don't.
What?
They don't at all. If you look, if you don't even, so you come to me and say, hey, boss, stars is fakakta. I don't even know what's I haven't even seen the final rule. I don't know what anything's going to look like, but I want more money. You know what I'm going to say to you? Go fire some of your staff.
I would say go fire that person.
You want
because
more money?
Reality
you want
is
more money? Go
no.
create it out of your own budget.
Dave, come on now. If your stars leader came to you and said that, encourage them to pursue other opportunities, because there's enough information out there to understand how this is likely going to impact you. You just need to get ahead of it. And kind of crying because we don't have all the information yet. Come on. I mean, we've run models that show exactly what all these things are going to do. And so you do know what's going to happen. And then you're going to spend appropriately to get ahead of this stuff.
Hey, I'm going to go make some popcorn. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Hey, how many health plans, to your point, all this information's out there. How many health plans were completely ready for the changes in impacts for Tukey? Right? Because it was out there.
Right.
Right?
All the ones that Rex
so
and I
lots
work
of
with.
CEOs, to your point, lots of CEOs were well educated and they're ready to go and they know they're going to lose their 4-star, but they know that they were a low 4, and so they knew it was likely to happen, and everybody's good, right? There's no way that that's true.
But whose fault is that?
They're going to be livid. They're going to be livid.
100%.
And the CEOs are going to call the stars people in, and they're going to say, "What the hell happened? You had a plan to keep me at 4," and then they're going to rope a dope, and they're going to talk about how it was unforeseen impacts and stuff like that. But
here's the reality. I mean,
health plans will pull back.
Rex can attest to this. You know, when Tukey came out. Over the past 18 months, we've probably done more in-person leadership team meetings than ever before by a factor of 10, 15, 20, because this stuff actually was complicated. And you trying to get in front of a group that doesn't understand the nuance of stars, and then trying to explain something as complicated as this to this group is a challenging thing. And so, but I do think, like, we pushed really hard to be communicating, getting out in front of this, because the world is going to change and everyone's going to go down. For the most part, everyone's scores are going to go down, assuming, relative consistent performance.
20 basis points, right, on average.
Yeah, and frankly, that's what we saw. But so I
don't know what to tell you, man. If you lost your 4-star and you came to me asking for more budget, and you lost $1 bazillion for my health plan, and you're asking for more money for your budget, I'm finding it with your salary.
Well,
that's how that's going to go down.
Depending on the timing.
But sincerely, that's how that's going to go down. This is going to be a bloodbath. This is not.
I don't disagree with
health
that.
Plans,
Dave,
health
I totally
plans are
agree
going to
with
be happy about this, or I knew it was going to come, or something like that. CEOs are going to be livid. They're going to say, I never knew that my 4-star was in jeopardy. And hey, I thought CMS said everybody should be able to win. Why are we have all these strategies to
CMS has never said everybody can win, though.
They have. I could find it, but they have said actually multiple times. We believe that everybody should have the opportunity to be a 5-star plan. They have gone on record.
They do.
Equal opportunity, not equal results.
No, look, I understand that the nose twitch just like you guys do, but I mean, like, but the reality is, again, I've never heard them say this is how much we have to save. I've never heard them say.
I actually haven't either, especially for specific to stars.
And again, why do you?
But everything is around.
Why do you have to suppress scores? Why do you have to suppress scores in order to accomplish the savings? You don't. So if you uncouple the stair step payment strategy and just go to a continuous one, right? You've got your budget, these are the health plans that fit inside it. And now CMS hits their budget, and you didn't have to play with the scores because there's more. There's a lot of money 4 and up, but it's more than that. It's also the prestige of being a 4+ star plan. Brokers are, they're somewhat lazy. I'm going to say, love you guys if you're listening, but somewhat lazy in how they pick which health plans they're going to present. And so what they tend to do is, okay, I'm looking for certain types of benefits. These are the types of benefits I'm going to present to somebody, and they have to be at least an X star plan, right? I'm not going to show somebody a 2, right? Because then that's going to reflect badly on me. So brokers have this kind of shelving approach, and obviously reimbursement that they're getting from the health plan is a big driver in which ones they choose. I'm not naive, but I mean, but at the end they do have a threshold, right? And so if a health plan is falling under that threshold for a populated market like Miami-Dade, I mean that's hugely impactful from an enrollment standpoint. So it's not just revenue, right? And I really feel like, again, it's a strategy that's being misused. It's coupled with these kind of cliff thresholds. CMS can't do the budgeting stuff we all guess they probably need to do, although they've never said. And at the same time, you have all these ancillary spin-off negative impacts for health plans that we don't even imagine anybody from CMS would want to try to impact. So I mean, I think for so many perspectives, Tukey is not working. It's not working.
What about are you okay with guardrails?
Well, look, I mean, I listened to you both and Melissa talk. By the way, it was a nice session. So this one's better, of course. But Melissa can handle that. No, I mean, look, it was a good session. You guys said interesting
We've had you,
things
Melissa,
about
and Anna back to back to back. I think
That's
we're
right.
gonna have a hard time topping those. Yeah.
Yeah. So and Melissa's a neighbor, so I could always bring my pitchfork to her front lawn if I have to. But yeah, I mean, I think in the end, guys, there's you all make a great case for the investments that are needed, right? What do health plans actually need? If you actually want health plans to spend money, what do they have to have, right? Well, they have to have repeatability year over year over year.
I think uncertainty actually causes them to spend more money. I really do.
A little bit of uncertainty is good. Too much uncertainty gets everybody pulls out. They just leave the market.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
I don't.
Maybe it's not even uncertainty. Like I think this is going to sound cocky, I know, right? And Mick kind of said it earlier, but like I believe with like at least 99%, right? All of our clients got what they expected in the 2024 star ratings. Some of them even were pleasantly surprised, right? They actually got a higher score and a higher star than they were projecting. I know that's not the norm, and that sounds like I'm bragging, but it's really because of our collaboration with Mick and his company. But where this is all they do, right, is analytics and helping our clients and a lot of other health plans predict this stuff really accurately. And yeah, a lot of plans, and there's a new Modern Health article that just came out, and I was Sean Creighton's and some other people quoted in there, like Sean saying, hey, a lot of plans didn't know, they didn't expect this. I think it was Sean, but I know a lot of plans didn't, and a lot of plans, they're juggling a lot of things, and they don't have maybe the analytics prowess internally to do this, and they're not externalizing it. So I know it was a surprise to a lot of people, but it wasn't a surprise to everyone for sure. And I would also say, if I'm that stars leader who came and lost stars, then I mean they should have known this was coming and the impact that it would have. However, I know they're limited by what they have internally and who they're working with, and maybe they didn't have that visibility. But I do think this uncertainty in these you can't afford to not be good at stars and compete, right? You can't compete if you're not good at stars. I would definitely argue that, because you're immediately 5% revenue lower, that you can't invest in in premium reductions and benefit enhancements and cost share reductions and just better programs. So if you can't afford to not be good, so you have to leave no stone unturned. So stars, and I've said this before, and I believe it wholeheartedly. Stars is not an efficiency game, right? It's not about being efficient. It's about being effective, and you overspend. You have to overspend when you don't have the clear visibility into exactly what you're being measured on. We've said all along. I mean, you don't know what you're being scored against. You don't know the goalpost until you're done with the game, right? The cut points are calculated way after we're done performing. So all you can do is do everything you can do, and then a little bit more. So, and you can't be cheap and do that. You can't underspend, or you're writing your death wish. You definitely won't be good if you're not investing. That's my soapbox.
Yeah, I mean, but what do you invest in, Rex?
Depends on
RWC and Hyperlife.
Yeah. Me. But anyway,
no, I
mean,
right?
it's I appreciate your points, right? Truly. Yeah, no. But I appreciate your point. But I mean, look, vendors are on the spectrum just like everything else, and I don't mean in terms of mental special needs, right? I mean, like the spectrum in terms of a normalized distribution, in terms of what they can deliver, right? And so you were talking about, hey, we're delivering high predictability, right? Okay, so you're on one part of that curve, right? There are plenty of people that are not on that part of that curve. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, there are lots of ways to do things, and I was talking to a friend of mine who does some consulting, and we were talking about kind of like the 80-20 rule, which is what we've always done as operators in the past, right? So what's the 20% spend that would give me 80% impact, right? That kind of line of logic.
Sure.
And I think the keep spending mantra has to be offset with wins in order for people. I mean, this is a drug you want them to take every year, right? God. And they're not going to do it if it doesn't feel good when they're done. If all they do is have to pay a massive bill, and there's like all the problems they have associated with their high-priced habit, and they never feel good. I mean, they're not going to keep doing it, right?
They're going to close the plan.
Right.
And I think so you just hit it. That's the pivot. So what are the pivots that a health plan can do? They can leave parts of the state that are highly competitive that they can't compete, right?
Leave the rural counties.
Not in beneficiaries' interest. They can leave altogether. They can yank the entire product, right? We're just going to do commercial and ACA, and we're going to get out of Medicare. We'll do ACO Reach, right? But we're not going to do Medicare. We'll do Medi, whatever. So I mean, there's lots of things health plans can do, and like that curve. Since I was talking about Kaiser before, let me do a shout out to the Kaiser Family Foundation. So that curve that they've published on the number of contracts overall, I think it's like the last 15 years or something like that. And just in the last couple of years, I think it was like the last 3 or 4 years, there's this 30% pop in the number of contracts. Mm-hmm. So where does that come from? Well, that comes from a sense of people, starting a new health plan, that making a $40-50 million investment in a brand new health plan. I'm gonna throw down some number around there before it's profitable. And these days, you probably need in the high teens, low 20s, right before you turn the corner. So that's a lot of lives. So you're talking at least 5 years of operating with deficits, right? So why are you going to do that? Well, it has to be, there has to be a rainbow down the path in order for people to make those investments. And I fear that whether it's this or whether it's people saying, no, we don't like all these these supplementary benefits. We want to standardize them. If you look across all of these things that are being said by one or other people, they all suppress differentiation. And they create this environment where Medicare Advantage, which is supposed to be, let's say we're 3 health plans, 3 people competing, we're different and we're differentiated, and you've got your spend and Rex has got his spend. Like, we're all doing our different thing. I mean, if it's not that, if we have standardized benefits and, we figure out ways to claw back on supplementary benefits and stuff like that, and then we put in standardized approaches to which being talked about right now. At some point, right. What is the point of the 3 of us being 3 separate health plans? There's no point. And so I think there's also kind of a biodiversity thing that's at risk here, right? Everybody likes to be environmentalist. When you're talking about whales, be environmentalist and think about health plans right now, right? We want diversity. We want an ecosystem with diversity, right? And if you make it too hard, if you make those investments too high, people won't make them. So why do we have to have, seeding all the points, Nick and Rex, that you both made on the investments, right? Why? Why must we do this to ourselves? We don't need to. This is a choice, right? So what CMS can do is say, you know what? Yeah, there's less and less money in the trust fund, and we don't want you to spend precious dollars chasing strategies that don't work well. So instead of constantly changing the game, because somehow that keeps everybody honest because they're off kilter, which is a line of logic that's never made any sense to me. So why don't you just lay back? Let as many health plans as can be 4s and 4.5s and 5s be 4.5s and 5s. And to Nick's point earlier, if there is a revenue issue there that we're not, being shared, it's not being shared with us in full color. Okay, deal with that, right? And that continuous strategy that I was throwing out is a very simple, easy to understand way that would deal with that instantaneously, right? And I'm sure there's 15 other ways that people can come up with. So I mean, I rather than being tied to an albatross and doing the mental gymnastics that we're all doing, this arms race, Rex, that you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. This is the 1970s and the 80s. It's just healthcare, right?
Like, you make some great points.
How is this a good thing?
Yeah.
It's not a good thing. It's wasted energy. And when's the last time you've actually seen, you guys are quality people, when's the last time you've seen quality people get together and actually share good ideas? They don't. Why don't they? Because we've turned every burp and fart that they have into secret sauce. And so they go, oh no, I don't want it. That could be incremental. And so they don't tell anything of value. And they show up at conferences and it's the same tired slide decks where they talk about something that they did 10 years ago. And it's not cutting edge. Patients are not being helped, right?
Right.
Nurses in quality used to be the great sharers.
Yeah.
When I started 25 years ago in healthcare, the nurses that would show up at a quality conference, they would listen to each other and they'd say, you're doing this wrong, and this wrong, right? And they're really tough on each other, but it was with love, right? They were on a mission to help patients. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
We tied money to stars and nobody talks to each other anymore.
Yeah.
This is not a good thing.
I think I agree that we could design a better mousetrap here. And I've heard you talk before about like different ways to provide revenue for stars, and would love to get into that at some point later too. I know we need to wrap now, but let's thank you for your insights. So seriously, like it does open
fun.
my brain. It opens my brain every time we talk, and I appreciate that. So
that's fine. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being on, and Mick, thanks, and let's I'm picturing like us getting together with Dave and a few others, and actually designing what the star ratings program should look like, and then maybe bringing that to an episode in the future,
or at least finding another controversial topic that we can attack
for Dave to come back. You're welcome back anytime.
Yeah,
I've got a couple. Mick, if you ever get to Nashville, I'll pay your bar tab.
Okay.
While you recover from this session,
we'll do it live from the bar in Nashville. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mick.
Yeah. Thanks,
all right.
guys.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later.